We are recording. Whenever you're ready, take it away.
We're live. Okay, so this is going to be about taking your dry, well, the opposite of dry, if you want to call it moist HTML, where you just have so much redundancy and it's like feels brittle and like you've got all these like rows and columns and you're like, oh, I want to restyle it, and now you're doing like a find and replace across your whole project and just hoping that it works out. So this is going to dry it up. We're going to go over like components, what those are. So that's part of the whole React ecosystem. And then there's Next.js, which I find really friendly and helpful to work in. So it allows you just to kind of have like pages rather than trying to fit into the React like single page application. Behind the scenes, this is still working as a single page application, so it gets that like snappy feel. And it's a very modern, has like hot module reloading, so you can edit your code and then it's just like showing up like it's magic. It can even like hold on to some of your like state management and not reset it like a page refresh would, which is interesting. So I was given a project from, let me see, I got to get these tools out of my way. You probably can't see me, so I look like a crazy person, but they're there, I swear. So there was this Motorcycle Mania project. I think it was from, where did that go? I think I actually have it hiding on the monitor I can't see, so that's good. Let's see, is it this one? No, that's Discord. Who did all this stuff? Sorry about this. So many Visual Studio Code windows. No, that's not even it. Maybe if I just reopen it. Like I said, it's probably hiding on the one monitor I can't see right now. So Kimberly sent these over to me to use. I guess they are hiding over there. Let me just do this over. Almost got it. Okay. So I guess this was from CS290. I don't know if that's currently going or not, but I wanted to just run through this. It is already like kind of in PHP, but I think some of the earlier stuff there was like no PHP at all. But I was kind of interested in seeing, like, we can go over this as like here we should be able to quickly see kind of like, okay, like there's a redundancy of like this navigation. So every single one of these pages, if you ever added a new page to your navigation, now you're going to have to go through and make sure you update all these, and it just leaves room for error for something to break. It's very undry. So after identifying things like this, these are like great candidates for components. Then we get down here and we start to see like this whole table layout. So we've got all these rows, and there's going to be a common pattern going here as well. So that's another great candidate for making a component out of this to kind of dry things up. Let's see here. And if we do look into kind of like this project 4, we start to see these abstractions come out to play as like header and footer. So we can model this in a component as well. So I guess to start, I'm going to do the crazy, and we are going to just spin this project from the ground up. Got to go steal this window again. There we go. So let's see. I'm just going to rm rf entire drive. Let's see. There we go. And then, so to start this, we're going to start this with, I did say it was going to be like JavaScript, but TypeScript, we can still write JavaScript and still add a little bit of typing in there and just have the benefit of typing, which is great. So, and I'm also going to use the flag use npm. It normally spins up with yarn, but in today's ecosystem, I feel like npm is just fine out of the box. So we're going to call this our byte session drying your HTML. You guys are pair programming with me. If I mistype something, forget a quote, you gotta tell me. So I did this earlier. I've been to a talk where somebody spent like 20 minutes installing their dependencies. So it shouldn't turn into this. I tested it right before this, and I'm like, wow, that was so fast. Of course, this time it's like kind of taking a little bit, but maybe one of the dependencies up here. All right, so that was relatively quick. So now we can open that up with, uh-oh, how many are there? Those look exactly the same to me. Oh, one is Session. Yeah, that was a typo from earlier. So, oh, don't type your own name. Type code. There you go. So yes, I trust this folder. And then normally you just want to hop into the README, and that will give you some info of like, how do you even get this going? So it's just npm run dev. So if we just out of the box run dev, we will see. This build can take a little extra. So out of the box, you'll get this nice little welcome to Next.js screen. So that is hiding right here. We have this page structure. They allow you to do APIs, but we're not going to be doing anything with that. And if you opt out of APIs, you can actually like statically build the site so that there's no like server really required. So you can push it up to a static host like S3 or throw it on like a GitHub page if you wanted to. So I deleted the API, and then like what we were seeing was right here. It's this whole welcome to Next.js. We're gonna delete this all out. There's a nice little footer and everything. Cool. And now we can just throw in, if we want to, our hello world. So there it is. Didn't even have to refresh the page. So that's awesome. So I guess what I wanted to look at is if we kind of look at what was going on with this PHP page, we've got, like I was saying, there's a navigation, a header, this awesome footer. So we'll just abstract that out, and we're going to create a page component so that we can have kind of like a template between all of our pages. Let's see. Make sure I'm in the right one. Apparently I've got two of these. We don't need the session. Close it. So to do that, they don't really have like, they don't scaffold out everything you kind of want for your project. They leave that up to you. So I'm going to make a components directory because if it's in the pages, it will actually make that a page. So for example, if I said bikes.tsx, and that's tsx since it's a TypeScript, and then the x is like you're getting the kind of like your components in there. So fonts like page equals. So we're gonna just give it an anonymous, or it's a named function, and then we'll do export default like page. And then in here, this is our component. So every component returns something. Oh, Copilot getting crazy. We'll just do that, but we're gonna get rid of these. So now if we want to go see the bike page, we can just come over here and say, bike or bikes. So there's our bikes page. Cool. So this will just kind of make a page, and you don't have like .html or .js with tsx or anything for the page path. So it gives you nice and pretty paths, which is great out of the box. So identifying kind of our page structure here. So let's go and make a footer component. We're just gonna copy and paste this on in. Or I guess step one, we'll make a page component. So we'll just call this page.tsx, font page equals, there's probably a snippet magic. Then we'll just say return. There's our footer. Well, we're going to probably abstract that out into a component. So maybe we'll just say there's a div here, and then let's make a footer and header real quick. Turn. So there is a thing called normally called a React fragment. So it kind of allows you to return an element without actually having like an element tag, which is nice. I guess we'll say, actually spell this right if I can today. Export alt header. And then we will just copy this on into footer, since that's kind of our skeleton. There's a great thing, if you've never used it, you can say rename, and then we can just call this our footer now. And that will update all references, but we haven't imported this anywhere, and we are exporting it. so it can be imported somewhere. So now in our page, we can come here and we're like, oh, cool, we want our header. And we're just going to auto import it from there. It's right in the same directory. And then there's this deal of whether or not you terminate your closing tag. So if there's going to be any like child components, you can do a tag like this. But if there's no child components, we'll just terminate it as a single opening. And then we'll do the same with our footer. Oh yeah, you guys might have to tell me like we're running low on time. And then for this page, we want to be able to like reuse this component and render things in the middle there, kind of like our dynamic content. So I'm just going to throw a div in here, and then there's things in React components called properties, and there's a special one called children. So that allows you to pull whatever is between those tags into the component. So we're going to render those right here, and I'm moving fast. This is a crash course to React and Next.js and a little bit of everything. But these curly brackets are essentially telling the system to like render or compute. Otherwise, it's just kind of your standard like HTML or like a string, essentially. This is probably mad because it's like, hey, we're in TypeScript. There's nothing going on. So I tend to just do type props equals, just say, oh, thanks, Copilot. It knows. I've done this too many times. So there we go. So now it's happy. It's got typing for that. It expects children to come through. Now let's actually go consume this on our bikes page. So we can come in here and we can just say, hey, I'd like to have a new page. Awesome. I guess I didn't import it. So we're going to say, hey, actually import that from the components. And now we can do bikes. We'll just say, here is our new page component. So now if we go here, cool, nothing fancy looking, but we need to go put something in for that footer and the header real quick. So let's just go copy that in so that it actually looks like it's doing something. So this fancy footer, nice. Your name. And just for fun, let's make this a variable. So I'm just going to go define it at the top here, and we'll say my name equals Cody Sports. And then if we want to render that variable in here, we'll just do those curly brackets because it's something that needs to be computed. And there we go. So my name. So that should be showing up in the footer now. Snazzy. We could even grab the year and make that dynamic if we wanted to. But onward to the header. Let's see. So they have this in here, just kind of your standard nav. I guess we can grab this entire, let's just grab it actually. Whole meal deal there. Let's paste that in. Oh geez, it is angry. Do not use, it's saying like we should use the next link tag for this. And that gives it the special magic sauce of being able to actually make it like a single page application. Otherwise, if you do use this and you go against that linter warning yelling at you, it will actually like refresh the entire page, which is something we don't really want to do. So there is a special thing that Next provides for us called link. So we'll import that, and then we will just change this A out for dash link. So not too different. I'm just going to come here and say rename symbol, and we'll say that's a link. Yeah, we'll just keep doing that. So rename symbol, that's a link now. Your link, everybody gets links. Look under your seats. And then we're probably not going to get to the add bike, but I'll leave it there. Symbol. There we go. Now we got a link. So, oh, and why is this angry? Not assignable to that type. So we'll get rid of the ID. We don't need it. So now if we go back here, look at this beautiful unstyled page. Wonderful. Ship it. Done. So I guess that goes to the next point of styling. So There is one way where we can just do like inline styles. So if I wanted to say like, make this have a black background or whatever. So we'll feed it. This goes back to kind of that whole computed thing. Like this could be a string if we wanted it to. And this is kind of what you're used to with like standard HTML. But since this is going to be an actual like object, we're going to consider it computed. And then we can say background, and then we're getting all this type completion, which is great. So color, and then let's just do like 2v2. So that's one way to style. I've probably rarely do this for like really small one-off things. Another way that's more useful is like you want to encapsulate this styling just to this component. So in here, there's a thing called modules. I was going to use Sass. I really like Sass, but in modules, you can pretty much get away with just using standard CSS because it's just encapsulated to that component you're working with. So we'll just call this header.module.css. And then let's just call this header. And then we can say background color. If you use Sass, you'd get the, I think all you have to do is install the dependency and then it just kind of works out of the box. Really close to working out of the box. And then let's have like a burn your eyes out green color. It's one of my favorites. A little bit of blue in there. Perfect. Oh yeah, we need to actually bind this to that header element. So now instead of doing style there, we will do, normally you do like class in HTML, but it will actually yell at you and be like, hey, did you mean to use like class name? So class name is what you have to use when you're in React land. And then since we're going to be pulling it out of somewhere, it's going to be computed. And now we're just going to go import styles from, and then hopefully I can traverse back up to there. Styles into the, let's give that a shot. So then once this comes in, I've got an extension that auto-completes, so it actually pulls out all the classes that are within that style. So we want it to have the header style. So cool, now it's got the burn your eyes out green color. It's getting styled. If we inspect this, it does a really interesting thing. So I was talking about how it will find this on the other window. Too many monitors. I was talking about how it would kind of only style that one thing that you're interested in so that your styles don't overflow and affect other elements on the page. So it actually creates this like computed kind of like hash names, and it makes sure that there's like no conflict on the page. So you get these crazy class names that it came up with, but we can see like, oh, here's our background color. Awesome. And it's like, I think it's the file name, and then it's the class name, and then it's a hash. And then potentially if you had nested stuff, it'd all just expand out. Okay, let's close that. I'm not going to spend too much time on styling, since that's just that. I wanted to, let's see what we're doing on time. We're at 20 minutes over. Should I just do 10 minutes and just show kind of like taking some data and spitting out a table with it, I guess? Probably be a good one.
Yeah, if you want. I mean, really, as long as we have an audience, you're welcome to go over whatever you had planned if you feel like you really want to touch on something else. But yeah, no, don't worry too much about time. I would say keep doing what you're doing.
I warned that this could like go on for an hour, so I'm not gonna do that. That'd be a part 2, part 3, part 4. So I think, where did it go? So earlier before this, I kind of just went and pulled out some of the data that I was seeing. So if we went to look at the manufacturers, we can see here like, oh, there's the Indian motorcycle. And then there's all these redundant tables and redundant rows and everything. So this will be perfect for our components. But I also went through and just manually grab some data. So let's throw this just, I guess we can be fancy, make a data folder. Just call this data.ts. We're not doing any kind of templating in here, so we're gonna not do tsx. And then normally too, you'd probably throw these out into their own files, but I figured like this is a quick enough demo. I don't know how familiar people are with TypeScript, but it came out, it's kind of like, I've always thought it was like a mix between C# and JavaScript, and it brought a lot of language features that JavaScript was originally missing. Over the years, it's kind of, JavaScript has caught up, and now it's almost to like a point of conflict where it's like, oh, we've got private property accessors, and we actually have classes in JavaScript. So it's been interesting, but this is just a little shorthand for your standard, like if you were going to say like this dot year equals year, and you're all passing it through, you can just in your constructor say public year and then the type. So I went through, and for a motorcycle, we're going to have year, model, category, the CC, HP, and then an image path, and then it has their typing accordingly. And then really the manufacturer for now, it's just, it almost didn't really need to exist, but it gave us some typing, and it says, hey, I'm going to take a collection of motorcycle objects. So then down here, this is just kind of it kind of is close to JSON, but it actually has our classes and typing in here. 1 second. So we're gonna, I guess, import these in, and I guess first let's actually just make like a row and a table real quick. So we'll just have a motorcycle.tsx. We'll call it a row. Thank you. Wonderful. I don't know if you guys have played around with Copilot, but it will just suggest like things that are like redundant, or it's also looking across all of it's like machine learning across the web. So it can do some really cool things.
You do have a typo on the in the Explorer. You named it motorcycle instead of motorcycle.
Nice. See, this is why I got you guys here. Motorcycle. There we go. That'll do it. And then we'll just say, we'll do that same little like type props equals, and then we'll say that we've got a motorcycle and it's a motorcycle collection. Cool. Or I guess this is just going to be a single one. We're just going to render a single one in here, and we're going to bind those props to the props type. Awesome. This is complaining because it hasn't been imported for the reference. So cool, that's that. And then if we go and look at this, so this is what we're emulating right now, is this row. So if we go find the original code for that, that's going to be just any of these. So let's just copy one of these bad boys and over here. And the cool thing is too with TypeScript, since it knows that it's a motorcycle object, it should know all of its properties. So as we come into here, why is my formatter angry? Maybe it's because this wants to be class name, just getting willy-nilly. Let me see. Document. Still something going on. This should not be red. I know it's going to come to bite me. Whatever it is. Maybe if I open up and look at how many problems do I got. IMG has no closing. Oh yeah, this is a classic mistake, is going from HTML to React. We have to have some type of closing tag, whether we have like an actual closing tag or just this like implicit single tag. There's definitely a better name, but this is also yelling at us too. They're like, hey, the linter is saying we should use the next image here. If you use that, you can no longer build just a static only web page because now it has to have like an image provider. But the image provider that Next.js gives is really awesome because it will give you like a whole image source set. So it has like mobilely responsive images, and it can also like on the fly request like the quality you want from the server, which is really awesome. So, I mean, since we're in dev and we're not deploying this, we'll fall into their ways. So we'll import it from next image. Awesome. We also don't have any of these pictures here. So let me just go grab all these assets real quick, images. we'll just see if we can copy this folder directly over to here. So our assets go into this public folder. Magic. Now they should be available. The other really cool thing is rather than like pointing at an absolute path, we can import the image. So we'll say, I guess we don't want to do it here because ultimately we want to start plugging in our motorcycle data. So we're not going to have this link. We'll nuke that, and then our source is going to come off of that motorcycle object. So motorcycle dot, and then we have our image path. So now it will point at that. We didn't have an alt, which of course is going to yell because we have to be accessible to the blind. For now, since we didn't actually have that as part of our instance, we're just going to say image. Sure, horrible. We also don't have any classes right now, so we can get rid of that. But if we wanted to style it, I'm not going for like a visual parody right now. And then we've got the motorcycle. There should be a year. Awesome. And then it should be a name. What was it? Was this just the is this the category? If only I knew motorcycles. Let's see. Oh, that's just the model type. So I don't think that's actually on the motorcycle object. If we dig into here, the manufacturer, it's not in there. How could I? Unforgivable. We will just avoid that for now. Or we could also, I've got so many things open, I don't know. We'll just close others. Only working on this one thing. Cool. So we could say that we're taking that, and then we could say, hey, we want to manufacture. And that will just be a new prop. It's going to be a string. Awesome. And then that is just going to go in right here. So this is the model. Wait, was this the model? Oh, yeah. That's the category, I think. And then down here we have the CCs and the horsepower. Alrighty, so now we have this kind of component, and we've showed how it takes in these properties, and then we can also show how those get kind of pushed into here. So now that we have that, let's go back to our, what did I call it, bikes? We are just going to call that motorcycles, even though I know I'm going to find a way to misspell it. So we have that data. So we have this whole collection. So we want to like iterate this and spit out a table. So let's just hop in here. So we can do a, just thinking about this, this is always the struggles. So for like each, ultimately I kind of want to like spit out a table like, oh, we've got a Honda table, Indian table, Triumph, or we could just spit out all the motorcycles, just boom. Both of those are different problems to solve. So let's see. I guess we will just, why not have a table component real quick? Why not? I'm trying to make this quick so that we can just see this. So maybe I'll just try and get all the motorcycles and split those out. So we're going to take our data. Why don't you want? Maybe I never exported it. Let's just see. Okay, it's called manufacturers. So we're going to import that, and then we have all these manufacturers, but we want to kind of iterate through these. So, you know, little whole code golf problem. So object dot map, and then we're going to have all the manufacturers, and then we want to get the bikes. So then we want to go the manufacturer map those again, but we need the values this time. Hopefully I'm thinking of this correctly. Or I'm sure there's some magic flatten that I'm not thinking of, since that's ultimately what we're trying to do. Or we could have used a reducer here, which is maybe that's what we actually do need to do. Reduce. And then we're just going to have an array that it initializes with, and then we need to have our iterator, which is going to be our collection, and that's going to be the manufacturers. Cool. So then we want to say that we will take our collection and push all those values that get mapped out, and then we need to return our collection at the end. This is not happy. We're not doing anything yet, so we will just, let's see. I guess we don't even need to map anything in here, so let's not even do that. We're just going to take all of them. So ideally, hopefully this will flatten. We'll find out. So here we can just, I'm getting deep in the weeds here. Let's see. Why are you angry? Array of string is not assignable to type never. Gotta love JavaScript, TypeScript errors, but I guess it's because we're just doing that. So what is even on here? So let's go look back at our data. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna get all those. I don't know that did we put a way to get back here? So it's gonna be dot motorcycles on the manufacturer. We don't want to map. Okay. So hopefully that'll work. This is where everything falls apart. So manufacturers, it should know that this is, oh yeah, but then we're saying that we're taking objects out of all of them. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. We might be able to also type this to say this is a manufacturer. Okay, let's not worry about that, and then we want to see just a quick and dirty dump, so we'll do JSON.parse, and then where is this ending? Where does it start? Where does it? Null, and then spacing of 2. Is this where just trying to make sure that we're in the right thing. I'm not sure why this is angry about 2. Expected 1, 2. But we're in the JSON. Oh, not a parse. We want to stringify. There we go. And then we'll just wrap this in a pre-tag just so it has some flavor. No, that is not it. Change that. So now it's cycles. Ooh. Beautiful. Null bikes. That's exactly what we wanted. Just kidding. Okay. Sorry about this. I guess what we want to do is, okay, we got the keys, and then we want to do factors. Is that going to work? Properties of the font. It's also manufacturers. That'll work. Okay, there we go. I don't like that null at the beginning, but that is, I think, what we kind of wanted. Still not exactly what we wanted. Let me just look up. When in doubt, just say Java, JavaScript, flatten. If it's already there. Although we are working with classes. So that might anger it, but okay. Let's just see what happens. If that works, that would make life so easy. So we will just say, what was it? Manufacturers. That. No, it doesn't want to do that. But what if we spread it out into an array. It still doesn't want to do that. Just wondering if it will actually run just for shenanigans. Nope. Well, Bob said it. This is what we get for live coding. I don't want to get you guys waste any more of your time with that, but let's just do one of them real quick instead of trying to flatten this. Watching me have a heyday of flattening, and then we'll do a Honda. So let's just do this real quick. So we'll say we want to do our manufacturer dot what was it? Honda. I think Honda was the one that had 2 in it. And then what we want to do is we're going to map those out to into a table. So let's just get a table quick and dirty around this. Ideally, you'd want to like probably abstract those out into components as well. Let's see. So then we want to return a motorcycle row. Motorcycle row. And then it's going to take a motorcycle and a manufacturer. So we're just going to do this quick and dirty. We're just going to say it's Honda. And then motorcycle is going to be motorcycle. And then this is probably yelling at us because, well, once I guess it's angry about that, we can say that's a motorcycle. And then normally this will yell at us saying that when you're mapping, you need to have an ID. I wonder if I can do object values. Yeah. Okay. And why are you angry? Expected everything. So normally you need to provide a key. So we will just on our map grab the index and then we will say key equals index because there has to be a unique identifier when you're mapping out into a collection so that React can look it up easily. Let me see. Having a struggle fest over here. Why is this angry? I'm gonna need the audience to phone a friend. Did I ever close this? Probably not. Okay, I guess we should probably close that. There we go. Let's try reloading. Sometimes you break things and it doesn't want to do it. Missing the source property. So we go into our row here. Source property, but where's it coming from? These call stacks aren't really the most useful. And I think is it saying that the image path on maybe the Honda should be coming through. Another thing we could do is just what I was doing earlier where we could do like a pre-tag and then we'll just barf this out. We'll say JSON stringify. Cool. And then we will hide this for now just to see. Gotta love debugging. Okay, so we should have an image path. How is it? Oh, I wanted to see what this actually is. So, okay, so we've got like an array and an array. So that's probably the problem here. Okay. Now will this work? If we come up here and say we want to just have the first index of that array. And then it's like, hey, we need to have a width and a height on that thing. You guys are crazy. For now, we'll just say width of 40. That's the thing, is if you want anything that's not a string, you have to actually compute it. So like the common thing is you can't just put like true in a string form. Then it's just gonna be a string, not an actually Boolean value. There's something angry over here, not sure what. Look at our problems. I implicitly has annotated. Oh, goodness. Normally it implicitly knows the typing, and you don't actually have to be very explicit with this. It's probably because I did the object.values. Let's see what's going on now. Oh no. Maybe we just omit the image for now, just for shenanigans. Since that's causing some headache. Okay, so now we're getting our bikes out. Okay. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer because it's about 45 minutes in. So I guess I will probably leave it here. I know it was a lot to take on, a lot of content to go through. But yeah, that was just a quick, crazy dive into like Next.js with a little bit of stylings, components, and React. Struggling with your data, of course.
Thank you for coming and being our Byte mentor today. It was actually really interesting to watch you go through the debugging process, I thought. So no time lost there, in my opinion. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask real quick before we call it a day?
Cody, did you learn all this in school, like React and stuff?
This was kind of just picked up on my own time. Originally, I did a big crunch because I was like interviewing for Twitter, and they're like, the recruiter was like, oh yeah, they're going to use React, and like, so I was like, oh, I better pick up React as fast as I can. So I actually helped a friend out with his React project, and just like did a whole deep dive into it. The documentation is pretty good. There's like the old like classes, and now there's functional components. So what I was doing in here is functional components. So this is kind of like your arrow function, where previously it would be like you'd write out like class, motorcycle, and then it's a little bit more involved because you have to explain kind of like the properties that are coming in, and like you have like these state keys and everything. I guess I didn't even get into state, but that's a really interesting thing that happens. And as you start digging into the depths of this, like if we put a console log right here, you would see how many times this like re-renders, and like anytime a property or a parent re-renders, it will completely re-render this. So you can get into this like crazy rendering, but you don't even really have to like optimize for that until it's like really a problem. And then there are things you can reach for, like memoization, where, you know, if these properties that come through match the same properties you've already rendered once, or if this is a really expensive computation for this, you can memorize it and it will be like, oh, we've already done that. It's like, here it is. But in terms of, yeah, learning, it was just kind of, I guess, crash course. And then eventually this last job I got into was doing, the project was on React and Next.js, and I was like, this is awesome. And just kind of learned a bit on the job too. So
Did you use mostly like web resources, or did you reach for any books or?
I was just using the React documentation.
Oh, okay.
And it is interesting just kind of like having this mindset of just kind of knowing that a lot of the stuff you're going to find online might be like how they did it in the past. So it's good to get an idea, the difference between like a class component and a functional component, just so that when you run across those examples, you kind of know how to translate them.
Right.
I think there was actually the tutorial I think is doing tic-tac-toe, and I'm pretty sure it is still. Which was, cool. The irony is that Twitter's interview process was over tic-tac-toe, but the whole thing was mad and crazy because once I actually got to that interview, they're like, oh, there's nothing to do about React. So all that learning I did was just for nothing at that point, kind of for that. It was nuts.
Well,
I think
you.
they were in a weird transition.
Thank you. Sounds really cool. I want to look more into React.
But yeah, it can definitely, you know, there's some good patterns that you can start using to actually, you know, dry up your code. Or it is frustrating when all you have is like your basic HTML, and you're like, okay, like I see, my whole navigation, like how do I get this across every page? I didn't really show, the magic of that, but we did nest this. So like if I just go make a random page real quick, like it'll be there. So we just say new bike.tsx, and then just const bike equals. So we got our arrow function. We have a default export, and this name is just arbitrary because it's just looking for the files in here. And then we'll just say return. And we'll say let's go pilot. So now if we just go up to here, new bike, we're just gonna get, oh, I guess, you know what you gotta do is you gotta actually use that fancy page component. So if you're doing just standard React too, they have this like, you can have like nested like templates, which is interesting, but with Next.js, you don't do that. So their whole thing is like, if you want a template, you make a component that kind of encapsulates that. So now we just got our header and footer for free when we used our page component. And now it's rendering whatever children we pass into it.
Very cool.
Yeah, there were other things I wanted to dig into, but yeah, just didn't have the time for it. So like I think React's shining point is kind of the state management and just how kind of the elements bind. Could stay on for a slight extended period and like do a quick example of like how a text box works, or an input field. And then there's also another really cool thing where you can have like dynamic segments. So we could have like, if you put it in square brackets, oh, computer, are you lagging just a little? So if you have something in square brackets, it's like a index TSX. So this would be like a dynamic segment. So ideally, you'd want to not just have this be a full dynamic segment at the root. You'd have like bikes dash. But now we'd be able to actually pull out this like bike ID, and then we could like hit like an endpoint, like a RESTful endpoint, and say like, hey, I want the information on this bike ID, and we can bring that back in, push it in through one of our components, and like render out that bike, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have any questions. Feel free to hit me up on Discord. I don't know if it'd be valuable to like dig into like forums on this. If you guys need another bite session down the road, maybe be a little bit more structured instead of going on a warpath here. But sometimes that's it's the quality too. Is just like struggle along the way, see what you're going to learn, find out how to debug. It's like you were saying, you're like. I like to wrap things in pre-tags, and it's like, well, I could actually make a debug component that does that for me and calls JSON stringify and shows it on the page.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do another bite session down the road. There's obviously a lot to cover here. So if there aren't any more questions, thank you, Cody, our bite mentor, and thank you for coming and listening. And if you want to rewatch any of this, we'll have it up in Discord here soon. But yeah, thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
So yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for coming.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.